This is the Digital Marketing Experts Podcast episode. No, why am I trying to sound like a radio announcer? Experts on the Wire, episode 10. Kristi Hines. Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of Experts on the Wire. This is where we share digital marketing insights from the smartest minds online. This is your host, Dan Shore, and I'm very excited for today's guest, Kristi Hines. She's going to teach us all about getting tons of exposure through guest blogging. So we're going to talk about the value of blog commenting, how to get going with guest blogging and really excel at it, how to keep track of all of your content ideas and inspiration, and lots of places for finding images, high quality images to use in your blog content. Kristi has written for, are you ready for this partial list of sites that Kristi writes content for? Here we go. Social Media Examiner, Crazy Egg, Moz, HubSpot, Unbounce, Kissmetrics, Salesforce, QuickBooks, FreshBooks, iAcquire, Content Marketing Institute, Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Watch, and a lot more. So she really knows what she's doing when it comes to creating guest content for other sites and providing value to every specific site that you write for. Because of course, you don't want to be just generically providing content to every site. You want to really cater to their specific audience. So she's really going to help teach us about that today. Kristi's been doing this for over 7 years, so she has a lot of experience in this realm. I want to take a minute and share 2 iTunes reviews that we received over the last week. The first one is from Rothman26. I'm not sure who this is, but if you want to wave to me on Twitter and let me know, that'd be great. But Rothman says, I came across this podcast by accident when I saw Dan tweet about it in my Twitter feed a few weeks ago. Since then, I've been listening every day as a part of my commute to and from work. And then he goes on to say basically that he would like more than just SEO content on the shows, on this podcast. We are going to have a lot more besides just SEO. So today's episode is all about guest blogging. We have a couple episodes coming up about e-commerce, some about PPC, analytics, PR. So and Facebook ads. We've had one about LinkedIn. So yeah, we really are trying to branch out to all fashions of digital marketing and not just SEO. Of course, I'm in the SEO industry, so that's why a lot of the first episodes ended up being about that. The second review is by Jason Quay. His review says, getting found on the web ain't easy, and listening to influencers may not always be the best. These guys know their stuff. They are in the trenches doing the dirty work to get their clients results. Definitely a podcast worth listening to if you want to grow your web presence. Jason, thanks so much for that 5-star review and for sharing the show on Twitter the other day. I really appreciate that. And it was nice to meet you too, by the way, meet you virtually. With that, let's get into today's episode with Kristi Hines. Let's jump back up just to get a few details out of the story. When you began writing, is writing something that was in your background? Did you come from a different career? What made you say one day, I want to begin my own blog?
I've always liked writing, like even just all the way back since high school. I've just always enjoyed kind of writing and teaching people about things. So when I got interested in marketing, as I learned things, I wanted to explain them to my audience, just be like, hey, I learned this new way to do this or way to do that. And so it's kind of a writing/teaching kind of thing for me.
Excellent. Did you have a prior career or degree or anything that came before that, or that you jumped right into this when you began your career?
No, I just kind of jumped right into it. I did some website design and a little IT work before that. So just kind of little things here and there, not marketing specific, but...
Yeah, it all comes with the territory, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So when you initially started writing on these other sites, like there's a lot of big names I know you've written for: Moz, Unbounce, Kissmetrics. I mean, a lot of the big marketing sites. Do you remember the first site that you contributed content to?
I think the first one was, the first large name site was definitely either Search Engine Journal or Social Media Examiner. I can't remember which one was first, but it was definitely one of those two.
Do you recall how this came about? Was it just that you were putting out such great content they came to you, or did you approach somebody at one of those sites?
Honestly, I think that was back in like 2010, and I can't really remember what order it went into. I know that one of the things I did to kind of promote my own content was I did a lot of blog commenting. So I just kind of went around a lot of different sites trying to meet, different blog people that would hopefully kind of come back to my website. And along the way, I would network with different people. And I got to know a lot of the blog, big blog site owners. And eventually, I'm pretty sure that's how I kind of made the connections to write on some of those sites.
It's interesting you bring that up. Now, I'm going to go on a little tangent that I would not have, but you just mentioned blog commenting. This is something we're actually trying to get more of our clients here. So we run a, SEO agency. We're trying to help clients with stuff like that. We're trying to get them to participate in blog commenting. Do you still see this as a valid form of, networking with sites that you might want to engage with or contribute content to at some point?
Definitely. As long as people aren't looking at it as an SEO strategy anymore, because I know it used to be it was a big let's build links by doing this. I look at it as more of a networking opportunity. Like if you want to write for the HubSpot blog and you want to make sure the editorial people know your name, make sure you're always commenting on all their articles. That way, when you submit your first article to them, they're going to automatically recognize you and they're going to see that you're somebody who's, obviously very well familiar with everything they do there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad we kind of are on the same page with that. It is tricky sometimes to get our clients to do that, I will admit. But I do see that I agree that there's a positive effect with doing that. So you were commenting on different blogs, you were getting involved in the community, and some sites asked you to write for them. Was this kind of an ad hoc thing at that time? Did you jump right into, like a schedule or a calendar with them?
Not particularly. I mean, I just kind of did it as I had time because I was working at an internet marketing agency at the time. So that was kind of more of I was writing on the side thing versus I didn't really have the full-time capacity to be writing for everybody.
That makes sense. So was it your goal to then transition to you're basically working for yourself, writing for other publications, writing for your own blog? Was that kind of your goal all along?
It wasn't really of a goal. The freelance writing is something that kind of came to me. My first client just reached out one day and the email was just like, I like the content you've been writing for all these other sites. We'll pay you to write for us. And I had never thought about it before, but I was just like, well, if I'm going to write this stuff anyway, why not get paid for it?
Exactly.
And so I started writing content for them and they gave me my own byline with this content. So I was getting paid for it and it kind of became my portfolio at the same time. So other people started reaching out and said, hey, we'd like you to write content for us and we'll pay you too. And eventually it kind of got to the point that I was able to make a full-time salary off of it. So it made sense to kind of work on my own.
Excellent. Sounds like a win-win, definitely. So your original blog that you started, now how do I pronounce this, by the way? The one that begins with a K, KIKOLANI.com. How do you pronounce that?
Kikolani.
Kikolani. And that's a very unique and interesting name. Can you tell us where it came from?
I thought I was being creative with it at the time. It was a combination of my grandmother's name and my middle name, but it turns out to also be a name that they use in Hawaii. So it wasn't as creative as I thought it was.
And you didn't know that at the time. That was a coincidence?
Yeah, it just turned out to be a coincidence because at the time I Googled it and nothing came up. And a couple of years later, I Googled it again and somebody was using it as a first name. So I don't know if they got it from me or if it just happened to be already out there. And
oh, funny.
So I'm not sure.
So let's hang on this site for just a moment. I want to ask you a few questions about it. This is a site where you allow other people to contribute content to it, correct?
Yes.
And so as somebody that's running a site, kind of like an editor, what are some things that you make part of your process, both as a writer and an editor, for accepting outside submissions? Do you have like a submission process, certain criteria? How does that work for you?
I have a page that has guidelines on it, and it also has a link to a Google form that people submit. And what they submit is just kind of their social profiles, the top content they've written for their sites, and some content they've written for other sites. And it's just stuff that I can review to see that, they know that what they're talking about, that they've written for stuff that's similar to what I want on that blog. And that way and then it also asks them to kind of pitch some topic ideas. And that just kind of gives me a quick idea of whether they actually know what my site's about or not. Cause I still get occasionally people who are just like, I want to write about healthcare. And I'm just like, that's not what my site's about at all. So never mind.
Yeah. I get those too.
Yeah. And it's having that page and that form, it's just easy for me to kind of funnel all the people who are requesting, like, can I write for your site? I could just kind of direct them there and just kind of easily filter through the good from the bad just pretty quickly with that.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a good system. So what, some of our listeners are going to be business owners themselves or CEOs or VPs of marketing. I hope anyways, that's what some of our listener base is. So they're obviously trying to get guest writing, options or possibilities on other sites to, like I agree with you that doing that for links is probably not the best thing, but doing it to spread your brand awareness and all those great networking things that go along with that is great. What would you recommend for people that are submitting to write to contribute content on other sites? Are there some common mistakes you see or some things that you as an editor really value in when those submissions get sent?
Well, the first thing, one common mistake I see a lot of my clients make when they come to me is they're trying to pitch to sites that aren't really valuable to them. You need to really find sites that are going to have your target customer as a reader. Because obviously, if you sell one thing and you're writing on a site where nobody that reads that site is going to ever buy your product, there's really no point in writing for it. And again, it's just kind of, some people just see it as the SEO value of, ooh, I'm going to get a link on a big site kind of thing.
Right.
So I always tell people to look for a blog where your customers are actually reading that blog and then try to contribute to that blog. Because that way, instead of just getting a SEO link, you're actually getting the chance to mingle with your customers, get referral traffic that's actually going to turn into conversions. So it's actually got a lot of value for it.
Yeah. How can people identify the sites that have their target customer on there? Is there a tool or a method, or what would you recommend for that?
Usually you can identify it just by looking at the content they're publishing. I mean, just look at the content and be like, would my customers be interested in this?
Right. Kind of a common sense approach, which a lot of people outreaching don't take.
Yeah, sometimes I just look at it and I'm like, no, your customer wouldn't be. It's just if is it a blog that's targeting beginners and is it a blog that's targeting small businesses and you have a tool that starts at $5,000 a month? That's probably not going to be a site that you really need to focus on, because that's not going to be the people that are going to be buying your product in the end, kind of thing. So a lot of it's that kind of thing. Start off with the right site in mind first, and then make sure that you're thinking of what content fits that audience and not what content is going to promote my brand.
Right.
Because that's going to be what gets you accepted onto that site. More important.
Absolutely. Now, do you find that businesses and people doing this try to target too many sites? Would you recommend actually focusing to more of a qualitative view on that?
I would suggest starting out with maybe one site, get a couple posts there and then kind of branch out to another site, get a couple posts there and just kind of keep building on that. Because I know some people who are just I want to get one post on 20 different sites.
Right.
It's just kind of, it's a little scattered and everything. And I kind of, I noticed with my own guest blogging that I got more attention when I posted on one site consistently versus just being on a bunch of different sites once.
So when you started, were you on just maybe those two search engine sites? You did that for a while and then you kind of built up as you went?
Pretty much, yeah. And then I started kind of blogging. Well, when I started doing the freelance writing, I started doing a post here, a post there, just as people started hiring me. And I noticed it was always the sites that I was on long term. The longer I was on a site, the more attention I got from it. Right. It was kind of more the readers got more involved with the person. So if you submitted one post, they would just be like, oh, that's interesting. But if you submitted 10 posts, then they just get really involved with you. And they're like, oh, this person's really trustworthy. And that's when they want to get to know you more, kind of thing. So I always suggest that when people find a really good site, that they just kind of stick to it and become reputable on that site.
I think that's great advice. I see so many businesses, my clients included, sometimes they want to target so many sites and there's that lack of focus, and that could be an issue. So somebody identifies one target site that they want to start publishing content to on a regular basis. How do you recommend that people establish that contact or reach out to them?
Definitely start with, obviously make sure you're a reader of the site first. If they have a blog comment section, make sure you're commenting on the articles. Aim for the people that are actually on the editorial staff. If the blog owner is actually writing articles, comment on their articles. If the editors are writing articles, comment on their articles. If there's like a few, big authors that are always writing on the site, comment on their articles, because they're going to be the people that are most influential as far as getting you to be on that kind of writer staff.
Yes.
And networking with them outside of the blog too. So like if you could connect with them on Twitter or on Facebook or just other areas too, just kind of become not like creepy stalkery, but just to be at a point where like when you do finally contact these people, they're like, oh, I recognize that person. They'd be great with this because, they're always contributing a lot of valuable information.
Those are really good tips. And I absolutely agree. In terms of finding contact info, I know it can be easy sometimes to find email addresses. Do you have any, tools or methods for that? If like, let's say you can't find the editor's email address, do you have a process for that?
Most of the big sites, they make it simple. Like they have a certain process to, like, if you want to write for the site, go through this form kind of thing. The next thing you would want to do is, if you know a writer that already writes for the site, is contact that person directly and just say, hey, do you know who I should reach out to? Or can you like introduce me to an editor that would kind of help along with the process? And like sometimes they can, or sometimes they'll be like, you still need to fill out this form, but once you do, I'll give you a recommendation kind of thing. After that, there's a tool, I think it's called, let me look it up before I give you the wrong link to it.
No problem. I'm very curious if it's the one that I'm thinking of.
Okay, that link didn't work. I think it's called Content Marketer IO, but
my friend Sujan. Yeah, Sujan Patel. He's going to be on the show next week, or not relative to when people are listening to the show, but I'm interviewing him next week, and that's his tool, contentmarketer.io.
Okay, I didn't type it right. That's why it didn't work on my end. But yeah, that tool, I know that like if you could find the person on one of those big crowdsourcing lists, if you pop that URL into the tool, it can usually find the email address for you.
Yeah, that was a perfect teaser to one of the next episodes, by the way, and I did not prompt you with that. That was perfect.
Yeah, no, you should get him to talk about that. That's definitely something I love using. So
awesome. And I'm sure he'll appreciate the testimonial for that. There's a tool called Voila Norbert. That's an email finder tool. Have you heard of that one?
Oh, I haven't heard of that one. No, most of the people I end up looking for emails for are kind of pasted on all those lists, and that tool kind of does it for me. So
awesome. Great. So I think that's really good tips for, approaching sites, getting your first kind of guest publishing opportunities. I want to shift a little to the idea of writing versus ghostwriting. And from a client standpoint, from like a business standpoint, how would you advise that they decide between getting a writer to put their name on something versus getting a ghostwriter so then they can put their name on something?
It really depends on what the goal is for their blog, because some people build a blog because they're trying to do they want to be like the next Social Media Examiner or Search Engine Journal. They want to have the blog where all these experts are coming to kind of build this huge authoritative, lots of different people contributing content kind of thing, versus some companies want to build a blog that says we are the authority, in which case that's when a writer would become a ghostwriter for the people who work there.
Yes.
And then those people would just kind of use their name on the content to build their own authority, versus like the outside writers are just kind of stamping their name onto the content.
Do you ever see a mix of that? Will companies kind of employ both tactics?
Some people do that. Some people have like the freelancers like put their name on some articles and then kind of write for the CEO or something on other articles. It can be a little confusing sometimes.
Yes.
As the writer to be like, okay, today I'm me, tomorrow I'm them, today I'm me.
Right.
But sometimes they do it, and other times they do, like, they let the writers put their byline on it because they're like hoping in the end that like they don't have to hire writers, that people will just, that the site will become big enough that like people will just start sending them free content.
Oh, right.
Just to promote themselves. So
yep. So they're kind of thinking long term with it. Great. Yeah, that makes sense. Also, you provide a lot of different types of content for companies: ebooks, blogs, articles, lead magnets, whatever you want to call them. So where does each one of these types of content fit in for a business's solution? Like, when would they want an ebook versus a blog versus an article versus a lead magnet?
Well, the ebooks and white papers and reports, they all kind of fall under lead magnets as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. And I always look at that as kind of the first thing they need. Because you don't want somebody coming to your blog and thinking, oh, this is a great article, and then they leave and they never come back again. Because, just because you go to a blog doesn't mean that's the same day you're going to want to buy their product or sign up for their service or get them as a consultant or something like that. Mm-hmm. But if you come to their blog, you like their content, and then you see, ooh, they're giving away this free ebook that offers more information, you might sign up for their email list. And, 3 months down the road, now you're ready to get their software or do whatever. And you've got their email coming into your inbox. So that kind of reminds you to do that. So that's why I always suggest that people have a lead magnet before they get their blog going, or if they already have a blog going, that they get a lead magnet as soon as possible so they can start capturing all those readers' email addresses so they can market to them kind of on an ongoing basis.
Absolutely. I think lead magnets really make sense for B2B, for software companies and things like that. But what about B2C or like consumer facing companies, e-commerce and whatnot? Do lead magnets make sense for them?
Lead magnets can be really anything. If you think about a retail store, you go there and you usually get a little pop-up that says, get a 10% discount by signing up for our email list. And I consider that a lead magnet. Even though you're not downloading anything, you're still signing up for your email address to get something for free. So, technically they're still getting your email and they're still marketing to you later from that point. So I think it works for any business, really, if you can just kind of find a way to give somebody something of value.
Absolutely. So maybe just something more like a simple email capture with a coupon or something for e-commerce. But would you say probably not like an ebook or, a white paper? That probably doesn't make sense for B2C. I would
probably not. If you had a fashion store, you could give away some kind of here's the, latest fall looks or summer looks or something, like a little view book. Or if you had a tax business right now, you could give away a little checklist of here's the things you're going to need if you're itemizing your deductibles. Or I don't do taxes, so I don't know exactly what terms to use for that.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
There's lots of ways. Just think of something your customer might need. And any business, there's got to be something your customer might need, whether it's a simple discount or a checklist or something like that. It may not be a white paper, and for a lot of B2C, it's probably not. But if you could think of just something itty bitty that they would give you their email address, go for it.
Makes sense. So obviously you write a ton of content. This is what you're doing all the time. Do you have an idea of, on average, how many pieces of content you're delivering maybe per week or per month? If you're, willing to say, obviously maybe exclude ghostwriting things, but any sort of quantitative number you can provide for how much content you're delivering on a regular basis?
I would think I do about 2 to 3 posts a day, mm-hmm. But sometimes it depends on who I'm working with and what kind of content. Sometimes I'll block out an entire week to work on an ebook or something like that. It just kind of depends on who I'm working with and what kind of projects I'm doing.
So you must have really kind of honed your process over time to be really efficient. Do you have any tools or a method or anything that you use to kind of streamline your content creation process?
I organize most of my assignments in Trello, and I just have I use this little notepad. I think it's by a company called Knock Knock, and it just says this week. Mm-hmm. And I have everything that's due for the week, on a sheet of paper. So I do a handwritten thing for deadline stuff. But then in Trello, I have all my actual projects. So if I have, say, 12 posts overall for a project for a client, I have a little Trello cards that I move over every time I complete a post, so I know how far into the project I am for them. Mm-hmm. And outside of that, I use things like Boomerang and Gmail, so I can kind of send things back into my inbox. So that's kind of a little to-do list. I kind of have a bunch of tools just everywhere.
Yeah, I know I use kind of an amalgamation of tools as well. Do you have a process for just collecting ideas? I'm sure they must come to you anywhere, but even when you're not sitting at your desk. So do you have any method for keeping track of that?
I do that in Trello too, actually. I have a blog topic idea board, and it's organized by subject. Mm-hmm. So every time I have I'd like to write a post about that, but I'm not going to do it right now. I just kind of drop it in as a card. Mm-hmm. And when I'm out of ideas, I go to that board and I look around and I'm like, oh, that's something I want to write about right now. And then I just move that card to the done list or doing list or, whatever stage I'm at.
Makes sense. And before you actually write the actual content? Do you create an outline or any kind of structure, or do you just dive right in and write?
Usually I try to go with something I'm feeling really inspired about, because I find that's the fastest way to get a piece of content done. Because if you're looking at something and you're like, I don't feel like writing about this, then it's just going to take forever to write about it.
Yes.
And at that point, I'm just ready to dive into it. Like, I don't really get into the outline and then go for it. I just kind of go for it, and the outline kind of emerges from there.
And you're a very dedicated WordPress user, correct?
Yes, I am. I do, like, since my clients do use different platforms, I also use HubSpot and a couple of other things I'm not fully familiar with, but most people use WordPress, yes.
Are there any editorial type plugins that you like in WordPress, or do you just stick to like the basics in there?
The top things people use Trello boards, they use CoSchedule, and a lot of people simply use Google spreadsheets to kind of do their editorial calendars.
Yeah, CoSchedule, I've heard of that. That's a plugin, right?
It's a plugin that does your editorial calendar, and it even does like some social scheduling. So if you have like an entire team of people, like you can connect your social accounts, and then like everybody in that team can kind of share the posts. So it's kind of neat that they integrate both of those features into the WordPress. Definitely.
Let's shift to social just for a moment. So you have a fairly high amount of Twitter followers. I think it might be in the 66,000 range. Was there anything special that you did to achieve that, or is that just happen for you as a byproduct to all the guest writing that you've done?
Well, I think it's been a byproduct. I don't remember doing anything terribly special. I know that for the longest time, when I do a lot of content curation, like I just share people's articles on Twitter like all day long, pretty much. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I did for the longest time was I would always make sure I would tweet the publication and the author of the article. Yes. And I know that doing that, like a lot of authors would start following me just because, they're happy that I'm sharing their content and everything.
I do that too.
And I know I got a lot of followers that way. And then just a lot of the times when you're writing for big publications, the publication will tweet that like you're the author of the article, and then people will follow you just because they like your content. So
yes,
I'm sure that's how I got most of my people.
Definitely. I tell people that all the time. A lot of them don't want to put in the extra work, but if I'm going to share an article from somebody that wrote on Social Media Examiner, I'm going to do what I can to dig to find that author's Twitter handle, to tag them in it so they see that I've shared it, because like you said, probably Social Media Examiner, they may or may not care that I tweeted it, but the author's going to care.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you know that as an author yourself, so as a writer yourself. Do you do anything else besides the guest promoting, like in the industry? Do you go to conferences, host any webinars, or any other forms of content?
I do go to select conferences. I haven't done very much in the last couple of years just because I have 2 toddlers right now. But like this year, I'm going to go to the Social Media Marketing World and probably Content Marketing World and Inbound. So
excellent. Do you know a guy by the name of Mike Bruni, Mike Ambassador Bruni?
Yes, I met him at Social Media Marketing World last year, actually.
Yeah, I'm glad. As I was asking, I was like, if she says no, that's going to be embarrassing. But I just interviewed him last week. He's a friend of mine from here in Worcester, Massachusetts. And I had him on the show last week. When I said that you were the next episode, he is like, tell Kristi I said hi. I said, I will.
Oh, that would have been sad.
Yeah. So I'm glad you said yes. I think you at one point talked about paid content promotion. And are there any platforms that have really impressed you lately for paid promotion?
Lately, the newest one has been Co-Promote, and it's you pay a monthly fee, which I can't remember how much it is, but you connect it to your Twitter account and a couple of different social accounts, and you can kind of boost like a tweet or a Tumblr post or a YouTube video, I think as it is. And then other people who are in the same, like have the same kind of interest will retweet your tweet and things like that. And I've noticed you get a lot of traffic when you do that. So that's been an interesting network so far. And Triber has always been very popular. It's not paid, but you can do paid accounts, you can do free accounts, and you can kind of connect with other people who want to help promote content with the same interests and everything, and kind of join tribes that are all about social promotion. And another one's Viral Content Buzz. They have a network where it's kind of, you can do paid promotion, or you can do kind of you share posts from your niche and build up credits to then be able to share your own posts and other people will share it from there, kind of thing.
Excellent. Yeah, I've heard of Triber, but not the other two. So check them out. Do you schedule your social media posting?
I do. I use a couple of different tools right now. I use Sendable because they connect to like a lot of different social networks. So if you go beyond like just Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, like they connect to Pinterest, and they'll send you reminders for Instagram, and they connect to like Tumblr and WordPress and odd networks like Plurk and just all sorts of other things. And if you need like social media inspiration, Post Planner is another good one. Like they connect primarily to Facebook and Twitter, but you can also use tools like If This Then That to get your Facebook posts like also kind of spread out to other social networks. Mm-hmm. So if you need the inspiration, like that's another tool to try.
Excellent. Awesome tools you're mentioning, by the way. I hope the audience will find those useful, because I haven't heard of a handful of these. A couple last questions, then I will let you go. I appreciate your time and coming on the show today.
No problem.
Yeah, it's been very enjoyable thus far. Where's my question here? I have a list and I just lost it. Oh, that's one thing that some of my clients and other bloggers that I know of, they struggle with finding good images to use. I know in some cases you're going to use like your own screenshots that you might make if you're teaching like a process or how to use a tool or something. But do you have any other resources for finding like a good, featured image or images of like, your office, or like any resources along those lines?
I use a variety of sources. For screenshots, I use, I think it's TechSmith Jing. Like that's what I use for screenshots. And then I use 2 Chrome extensions if I'm doing like actual web page, like if I need a full web page screenshot kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I think one's FireShot Chrome extension, and the other one, I'm not sure what the name of it is. Mm-hmm. But the 2 of them together, like they never individually work all the time, but the 2 of them together always work. So. And then outside of that, I use a lot of stock photography. So like Big Stock Photo and Deposit Photos lately. I kind of bounce between the 2 of those. So I'll do like sometimes stock photos, and I think I do stock videos sometimes too if I need like video footage. And aside from that, I like to use Canva a lot. Like they have a lot of easy to use tools if you're not an actual graphic designer, but you want to do those like kind of featured blog post images that a lot of people are using lately. It kind of makes it easy to create those.
Awesome. And so are these all stock photo places paid, or any of these free?
They're all paid stock photo places. I find that's a little bit safer because you never know. Sometimes with the free sites, you never know where the images are coming from. And like I used to do a lot with Creative Commons, but I've found that like sometimes photographers will release things as Creative Commons, and then like years later they'll change it to like non-Creative Commons, and then they'll find people who are using their images and be like, oh, that's not free usage anymore, take it down. And that just causes trouble. So I just pay for my images now because I figure that way I don't have to worry about a fight with any of them.
And especially if you're providing content to other websites, then that's another layer as well. That can get
exactly, yeah.
Awesome. Well, you named so many helpful tools. Like I said, half of these I haven't heard of, so I'm excited to check these out. Some great resources and tips. The last question I have is kind of a fun one. Do you have a favorite place to write, to compose? Do you generally just work from home? Do you like to go to coffee shops?
I work from a home office now, primarily, and that usually works for me. I have noise canceling headphones, and I use Brain.fm. It kind of plays like not white noise, but just kind of background music that helps you focus.
Oh, interesting. Brain.fm. I'll have to check that out. Great. Well, this has been a highly informative interview. I can't wait to get this posted. And everyone should stick around or come back next episode for episode 11 of Experts on the Wire with Ronell Smith. He's a Moz associate and he's a content marketer. And the last thing, Kristi, is do you have a place other than your own website that you want to send people? Do you have an email list or a product or a piece of content or anything at all, now's your chance to direct people where you'd like them to go.
Just my main website, KristiHines.com, and I'm on Twitter at Kikolani. Probably the best places to start at.
Excellent. And then you guys all know the web. You can find everything else Kristi writes about. Wow, what a great episode with Kristi Hines. The reason why I brought her on the show and was kind of asking her the tools and processes that she uses, because if you picked up on it, she's really a content machine, creating up to 3 pieces of content a day on average for her own site, as well as you heard, dozens of industry sites. And to me, her process for doing so at such a high quality was really interesting, and I hope it provided some value for you as well. Definitely go back and listen to episode 9 with Mike Bruni. For some reason, this episode is not showing up in the iTunes store unless you hit subscribe. And no, that is not a trick to try to get you to subscribe, but I just want to make sure that you don't miss Mike Bruni's episode all about event networking. He was the guy that Kristi and I just mentioned towards the end there, and he is the director of attendee engagement at Social Media Marketing World. So if you're somebody that is really interested in learning how to better network in person, that episode is for you. Episode 11 is going to be a huge treat. We have Everett Taylor. You can find all about him on Twitter, and he's at Everett, EVERETTE. He's a really amazing guy, and we had a great conversation. He now works 2 full-time jobs, and we also ended up chatting a little bit about Jamie Foxx. So you might want to tune in to hear what that was all about. So with that, I really appreciate you tuning in and spending the time with me twice a week to learn all about digital marketing. Again, please leave any comments or reviews in the iTunes store, or you can hit me up on Twitter at Dan_Shore, SHURE, and we'll see you next time. Thank you. Music by me.